Hi, I've had a few comments since my Bark River Bravo 1 3V LT review went up, just regards to which is going to be your favourite in the end, this or the S1, which is made by Fallkniven. So I thought I'd just go into the two in this video and just do a comparison, just tell you what's the same, what's different, and what each one's better at, I guess. So I guess we'll look at both at the same time. We'll get onto tabletop so it's a little bit easier so I'm not waving them around so much. Alrighty, without going into the absolute specifics, both of these knives are about the same size, about the same weight, and can do about the same things with about the same amount of success. So you've got blades between 4.5 and 5 inches, so about 4.5 for the Bark River, 5 on the nose for the Fallkniven. You've got sort of the same length handles, about the 5-inch handles, which in my opinion would accommodate most size of hands. My hands are large, I've got quite long fingers, no problems there with that, and it could definitely go a couple of hand sizes larger on each. Both have convex ground edges, so the Fallkniven is convex ground from this midline here, and then it's flat on this top portion. The Bark River is convex ground all the way down, so it's a steeper, I guess a shallower convex rather than this one, which is quite a deep convex, quite a high, I guess a higher angle. The blades are both about the same thickness. The Fallkniven's is about 1 millimeter or so thicker than the Bark River, just at that main sort of, just as you exit the handle there. So both are sort of thick, capable knives with very keen convex edges, about the same size and weight. So the differences. So I guess we'll go to blades first. Apart from the difference in grind, so this one being a flat then convex and this one being a full convex, the steels are different as well. So this one's in 3V steel, the Bark River, which is a carbon steel, which is it's a powdered carbon steel, so it's going to be a bit more even in all senses, so it'll tarnish evenly and it'll wear pretty evenly and all that sort of thing. This one is a non-powdered stainless steel, which is laminated as well. So this edge here on this knife, I'll see if I can get the camera to focus on the edge. Where are we? There we go. So from, you can probably see it in this line, about a short distance from my finger there is a line. That is the actual VG10 portion of the blade. It goes all the way through, but these two bits of steel on each side are 420 or 400 series, I think 420J stainless. So it's a lesser quality steel on the Fallkniven, I suppose. Less expensive anyway. The handles on the Bark River, it's micarta, which has been polished. This is brown micarta and it's pinned in. And on the Fallkniven it is a Kraton, which is like a super durable thermoplastic, slightly rubbery feeling material, rather hard though, and it's got this checkering on it for grip. The ends of each knife, both full tang of course, but the Fallkniven protrudes slightly to make for a hammering pommel. The Bark River obviously also has a thumb ramp, which is an option you can have removed. And with regards to the sheaths are quite different indeed. So the Bark River sheath is this leather creation here. It's a nicely made sheath, but it's not particularly good in terms of functioning. There's certain issues with this sheath, mainly centering around this strap here, which does make it slightly frustrating to use. The strap both can be cut quite easily by the knife if you forget to tuck it beside here, like I've just done, and also when you're putting the knife back in, it can catch up on the handle there unless you sort of pull away from the sheath and push in. Even then, it's tricky, and so what you end up happening is this piece of leather is getting pushed by the spine of the knife, particularly by that hump of the knife, into the into and away from the stitching there. So it's a bit of a bother. It's actually a fair bother. It's probably my main criticism of this knife. Fallkniven S1 doesn't come with anything amazing sheath-wise, but it's much less likely to get slowly damaged or eroded away. So it's a very simple plastic affair. It's designed so the knife doesn't freeze in its sheath when it's being used in sort of survival in the the snowy European countries. So there's a bit of rattle, so all the parachutists among the YouTube knife using community might, you know, get bothered on their trip down as it rattles in the wind, and also I guess the stealth recon scouts amongst the youth YouTube knife community might also be a bit put aside when their knife rattle gives them up to enemy combatants. But for me, as a normal guy, it doesn't really bother me at all. It's just nice and reliable and stable. Nothing really go wrong with it that I could particularly see. Just needs this strap to hold it in because it does kind of shake out. That's all. So in terms of those differences, I guess, yeah, the only main one I would say that's a problem is the back rubber has the worst sheath, but then I would suggest perhaps the back rubber makes up for that by having slightly better materials. Anyway, so what is each knife better at than the other? Well, both are really good at carving and doing all your standard camp tasks. So both of them are about the same quality as a general camp knife to use for general camp tasks like cutting up sandwiches, or sitting around the campfire having a bit of a whittle on some wood, or cleaning a fish out, or any of that sort of stuff that your camp knife might be put to service for. No problems at all. I would say that for each of these, if you are between the two on these knives, which is a possible problem you might be having because they're both about the same price and you might be looking for your premium knife, I would say depending on what you're planning on using it for. So the S1, in my opinion, is a great camp knife and can also be moved to being a great survival knife. So it's a little bit stronger perhaps than the Bark River, just in terms of the handle fully enclosing the tang there, whereas this micarta sort of here, micarta is strong stuff, but there are some, striking on the back of this is eventually going to wear it away. This rubber here is very, very strong and very, very, very durable. And also, just for this extra little tool on the back, the hammer pommel, slight extension in terms of the length and slightly thicker. I would suggest the Fallkniven would move up really well to survival tasks. Also, for splitting wood, if you are using a knife for battening, if that is something that doesn't violently incense you, then I would probably go with this one because this relief flat surface here does relieve the pressure on the knife face in general, and so this carries the brunt of the battening there. Flat grind or full convex grind knives like this will be hugged by the wood a bit more throughout the whole trip through the log, so just something to note there. Whereas the Bark River, as well as being a great camp knife for all your camp tasks, I think this moves more in towards being a good hunting knife. So if you notice the blade shape, it's got a slight drop, but a very nice sweeping belly, almost up to the same level as your thumb. So you can do some really nice, precise control cutting with that first tip, just with a sort of a downward push. Really, really quite easy. It's almost wand-like. It's like poking something with a stick sort of thing, and you'll be making sort of fine cuts away. The 3V holds an edge really, really well. It's really tough stuff, so it's not going to be phased by bones or anything like that. VG10 has been known to be a little bit chippy, not from my experience, just from it being known generally, so however much stock you put in that. So I would suggest this one would migrate up to your hunting knife if you are a hunter. I'm not a hunter, so I'll fish and I could use either of these knives just as well to clean a fish, that's no problems, but I haven't hunted particularly a great deal in my life. So, but if that is you, then I just know from people who are in the know, so perhaps you see the Virtua Vice channel, he's a prolific hunter and he uses this type of knife, this Bravo 1 knife, in a lot of his videos. I mean, he has heaps of Bark River and Fallkniven knives, and he seems to prefer this rather than these for his hunting blades. So I would put a fair bit of stock in his opinion. So that's probably the difference between the two. If you are likely to move it to a hunting role, the Bark River is probably for you. But if you just want your camp knife to be able to perhaps function as a survival knife, if push came to shove and you didn't want to bring something properly designated as a survival knife, like perhaps as A1, then I'd say the S1 would be the one to get. So that is about the ins and outs of it, and really with either of these you can't go wrong. And you know what? This one would hunt for you just fine, and this one would survive for you just fine, but it's about the main points of difference I can get. What it's really going to come down to is which do you like the look of better and which feels better to you in hand. These are both good knives in hand, but you might prefer gripping smoother micarta and having this thumb ramp and this sort of forward choily area do your fixing in hand for you, whereas the Fallkniven is a little bit more subtle. This plunge isn't as severe. It is still effective, but then the grip of the plastic or Kraton does the job for you with this one. So whichever you find a bit more, appealing in terms of that. I think they both are very, very good looking knives. I like knives, as I often say, that look understated, and both of these look understated. This looks like a traditional knife that you could see a knife that looks like this in the early 1900s. I mean, it wouldn't be made of such amazing materials, but it looks nice and basic. And this knife, it looks understated. It's a really, really hardcore and really, really durable survival knife that doesn't feel like it needs to particularly, look like it. It's just nice, and it's almost kitcheny looking, isn't it? Really, really good. So that's probably what's going to be the deciding, whether you're going to be using it for hunting or you just want that survival aspect, and also what looks best to you, because really they're about the same price and they're both fabulous. Anyway, that is my little thought on these two. I think I like the S1 slightly better, even still, mainly right now just because of the sheath, but that may change if I eventually get rid of this thing and get something that's a bit better. Alright dudes, thanks for watching, see you in the next video.